The penthouse office of Luca Bologna was silent except for the ticking of a vintage clock, a relic from his father. At 34, he had built a billion-dollar empire, yet the emptiness in his chest never faded. He picked up the old family photo, his mother's warm smile, his father's firm but loving grip on his shoulder. They had died in a car crash when he was 20, leaving him with nothing but a small inheritance and a broken heart. "You always wanted grandchildren, Papa," he whispered. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Isabella's cold ultimatum. Isabella Moretti, his fiancée, strode in wearing a designer dress that cost more than most people's rent. Her beauty was sharp, all angles and calculated charm. "Luca, we need to finalize the surrogacy papers," she said, dropping a folder on his desk. He frowned. "I thought we were discussing this again. I want a child of our own, not just an heir, a family." She laughed, a sound like ice cracking. "Ruining my body for a baby? Be serious. The surrogate will carry it. That's the deal." Luca's jaw tightened. "My parents raised me themselves. I wanted that for my child." "Sentimental nonsense," she scoffed. "Sign the papers, Luca. Or is your empire not enough for you?" Later, at prestige fertility clinic, Luca stored his sperm samples. The technician, Nurse Rita, was new and nervous. "Everything's labeled correctly, Mr. Bologna," she assured him. What Luca didn't know: Isabella's father, Dr. Moretti, owned the clinic and he had plans. "Make sure the surrogate is implanted tomorrow," Dr. Moretti ordered Rita. "My daughter's future depends on this." Meanwhile, in the same building, Sophia Rossi scrubbed the marble floors of the executive wing. At 26, she had spent 5 years cleaning offices invisible to the wealthy men who passed her. Her life was simple: work, church, and caring for her sick grandmother. She had never even held a man's hand, her faith and struggles left no room for romance. "Almost done, Sophia?" her supervisor barked. "Yes, ma'am," she whispered, wincing as her aching back protested. Back at the clinic, Nurse Rita mixed up the files. The surrogate's form was swapped with Sophia's recent medical checkup record, required for all staff. "Sophia Rossi, 26, healthy, perfect candidate," Rita mumbled, not realizing her error. She prepared the implantation procedure, never checking the ID photo. That evening, Luca worked late. Sophia entered quietly, not realizing he was there. She hummed a soft hymn as she dusted his shelves, the same one Luca's mother used to sing. His head snapped up. "Who taught you that song?" Sophia gasped, nearly dropping her rag. Sorry, sir, didn't see you." For a moment, they stared at each other, Luca, struck by her gentle eyes, Sophia frozen in fear. Then his phone rang. "Isabella." "Get out," he said tiredly. Sophia fled. The next morning, Nurse Rita realized her mistake too late. "Oh God. I implanted Mr. Bologna's embryo into the Maid." Dr. Moretti's face turned to stone. "No one finds out. Or you lose your license," and more. Sophia Rossi knelt in the dimly lit bathroom of her tiny apartment, gripping the edges of the sink as another wave of nausea crashed over her. Her reflection in the mirror was pale, dark circles forming under her wide, frightened eyes. "This can't be happening," she whispered to herself, splashing cold water on her face. For the past 2 weeks, she had woken up dizzy, her stomach churning before she could even take a bite of toast. At first, she thought it was stress, her grandmother's worsening condition, the extra shifts she'd been pulling to cover the medical bills. But when her monthly cycle didn't come, a gnawing fear settled in her chest. "Maybe it's just exhaustion," she lied to herself, slipping into her oversized work uniform. Sophia had never been to a gynecologist before. The clinic walls felt sterile, suffocating. The nurse had asked routine questions: "Any chance you could be pregnant?" and Sophia had laughed nervously. "No, that's impossible." But now, the doctor's face was grim as he studied the test results. "Miss Rossi, you're pregnant." The world tilted. Sophia's hands flew to her stomach. "No. That's not possible. I've never." I'm a virgin. The doctor exchanged a glance with the nurse. Sometimes, in rare cases, there can be. No, Sophia cut in, shaking her head violently. There's no explanation. This isn't right. A tear slipped down her cheek. Luca sat in the same fertility clinic, his jaw clenched as the doctor delivered the news. I'm sorry, Mr. Bologna. The surrogate, she lost the pregnancy. Isabella, sitting beside him, sighed impatiently. We'll just try again. Luca didn't respond. His fingers tightened around the armrest. It's not that simple, the doctor said carefully. The surrogate may not be able to carry again. And your stored samples were limited. Luca's chest burned. So that's it? No heir? Isabella rolled her eyes. We'll find another way. But Luca wasn't listening. His father's face flashed in his mind. Family is everything. Luca. Sophia stumbled into the empty church near her apartment, collapsing onto the pew. The scent of incense and old wood wrapped around her, but no comfort came. God, please, tell me what's happening, she whispered, pressing her forehead against her clasped hands. She had spent her entire life following the rules, staying pure, caring for others. And now? A virgin pregnancy? It sounded like a twisted miracle. Her fingers trembled as she pulled out the small cross necklace her grandmother had given her. What do I do? Back at the office, Luca was in a foul mood. He snapped at his assistant, nearly threw a file at a junior executive, and stormed into the hallway, where he nearly collided with a petite figure carrying a mop. Sophia gasped, jumping back. Sorry, sir. Luca barely glanced at her, just another faceless maid, until he saw the tears in her eyes. She quickly wiped them away, but not fast enough. Why are you crying? The question came out harsher than he intended. Sophia stiffened. It's nothing, sir. Just allergies. Luca really studied her, for the first time. Her uniform was too big, her hands red from cleaning. But her eyes, they held a sadness he recognized. Before he could say anything else, his phone buzzed. Isabella. He exhaled sharply. Just get back to work. Sophia scurried away, but Luca stood there, watching her go. Isabella didn't miss much. And she certainly didn't miss the way her fiancé had stared at that nobody maid. She waited until Luca was in a meeting, then summoned the head of building services. That girl, Sophia, I think? Fire her. The manager blinked. But she's one of our best workers. I don't care, Isabella said sweetly. If she's not gone by tomorrow, neither are you. Sophia was cleaning an empty office when a folded slip of paper fluttered onto her cart. She opened it, her blood turning to ice at the words. You were implanted with the wrong embryo. The baby isn't yours. The cathedral was draped in white roses, every pew filled with Milan's elite. Luca stood stiffly at the altar, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, his smile perfectly fake. Isabella glided toward him in a custom Vera Wang gown, her face the picture of bridal bliss. But as the priest droned on about love and commitment, Luca's mind wandered to the empty seat where his father should have been. Do you, Luca, take Isabella? I do. The words tasted like ash. Across the room, Sophia, working the event as extra staff, watched from the shadows, her hand unconsciously drifting to her still flat stomach. Isabella's penthouse was all cold marble and modern art. Luca poured himself a whiskey, ignoring his new wife as she inspected her wedding gifts. The Cartier set is nice, but the diamonds are small, she mused. Luca didn't respond. She smirked. Still thinking about that surrogate? Don't worry, darling. We'll get you your heir. He finally looked at her. Is that all this is to you? A transaction? Isabella laughed, walking to their separate bedrooms. Isn't it for you too? The door clicked shut behind her. Sophia's uniform was getting tighter. She'd started wearing baggy sweaters, avoiding the mirrors in the cleaning closets. But worst of all, she could feel it. A flutter. A tiny, impossible movement inside her. "This isn't my baby," she whispered to herself, remembering the note. But when she pressed her hands to her stomach, something primal stirred in her chest. Her grandmother, bedridden but sharp-eyed, noticed first. "Bambina, you're glowing," Nana rasped. Sophia nearly dropped the soup she was stirring. "Just eating better." Nana's knowing gaze followed her around the tiny kitchen. Dr. Moretti paced his office at Prestige Fertility, the nurse who'd made the mistake trembling before him. "You're sure the maid doesn't know?" She got the note, but... "No more mistakes," he hissed. "My daughter's marriage depends on Luca never finding out. If that maid comes asking questions, you redirect her. Understood?" The nurse nodded frantically. Luca found himself lingering in the office late again. He told himself it was work, but when the soft humming started down the hall, he knew the truth. That song. He followed the sound to a dimly lit conference room. Sophia stood on a step stool, dusting the high shelves, her cleaning rag moving in time to the lullaby. "Where did you learn that?" His voice came out rougher than intended. Sophia startled, nearly falling. Luca caught her arm the first time they'd touched. Electricity shot up his spine. My grandmother sang it," she stammered, pulling away. "I didn't mean to disturb you, sir." Luca studied her. The way her lashes fluttered when nervous. The faint blush on her cheeks. "You're not disturbing me." A beat of silence. Then, "Mr. Bologna." His assistant burst in. "Your wife is on line 1. The spell broke. Sophia scurried out as Luca reached for the phone. "Luca, darling," Isabella purred. "We're expected at the Laurentis in an hour. Don't embarrass me by being late." He hung up without responding. "You've been different since the wedding," Isabella accused that night, swirling her martini. Luca didn't look up from his paperwork. "Have I?" "You're always at the office. Always distracted." She narrowed her eyes. "It's that maid, isn't it?" Luca's pen stilled. "Don't be ridiculous." Isabella smiled, all venom. "I had her transferred to the night shift. Far away from you." Sophia was mopping the deserted executive floor when the first real pain hit. A sharp cramp doubled her over. She gasped, clutching her stomach. No, no, no. Warmth. Wetness. She looked down in horror at the blood trickling down her legs. The mop clattered to the ground as Sophia's vision blurred. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Luca's office door swinging open. Luca froze in his office doorway, his breath catching at the sight before him. Sophia lay crumpled on the polished floor, her mop bucket overturned, water mixing with thin streaks of blood snaking toward the drains. Her face was ghostly pale, one hand still clutching her stomach protectively even in unconsciousness. "Sophia." He was at her side in 3 strides, fingers pressing against her neck. A pulse weak but there, without thinking, he scooped her up, her slight frame barely weighing anything in his arms. Her head lolled against his chest, and for one absurd moment, Luca noticed how right she felt there. Then reality crashed back. "Call an ambulance." He roared down the hallway, already moving toward the elevators. The ER doctors moved quickly, separating Luca from Sophia as they wheeled her away. "Are you family?" a nurse asked briskly. Luca opened his mouth, then hesitated. "I'm her employer." The nurse's eyes narrowed at the blood on his shirt. "Wait here." In the sterile hallway, Luca paced. Why did he care so much? She was just a maid. Just an employee. But the memory of her humming his mother's lullaby haunted him. Nearby, 2 orderlies whispered. "Pregnant, can you believe it?" Said she's a virgin. Hysterical pregnancy maybe. Luca's head snapped up. "Pregnant?" The double doors burst open as Isabella's father stormed in, white coat flaring dramatically. "Luca! What are you doing here?" Dr. Moretti's eyes darted nervously toward the treatment rooms. One of my employees collapsed, Luca said slowly, watching the doctor's reaction. Apparently she's pregnant. A muscle twitched in Moretti's jaw. These silly girls will say anything for attention. Probably just an ulcer. Before Luca could respond, a young resident rushed out, face ashen. Dr. Moretti. You need to see this, the patient's HCG levels are off the charts, and theirs. Moretti cut him off with a glare. Not here. He turned to Luca with a plastic smile. Why don't you go home? I'll handle this. Consciousness returned in painful waves. Beeping machines. Antiseptic smell. And voices arguing outside her door. Impossible unless. Mix up with the samples. Bologna embryo. Sophia's hand flew to her stomach. The baby. Was it gone? Was it safe? The door cracked open, revealing Dr. Moretti's cold eyes. Miss Rossi. We have a problem to discuss. The gel was cold on her abdomen as the ultrasound tech moved the wand. Sophia turned her face away, she couldn't bear to see an empty screen. Then there's your baby, the tech said softly. Sophia's eyes snapped to the monitor. And there it was, a tiny, bean-shaped being with a flickering heartbeat. Tears spilled over as the tech continued. Measuring at 14 weeks. Perfectly healthy. Dr. Moretti barged in, snatching the printout. His face went through a series of terrifying transformations before settling on a chilling calm. Miss Rossi. This child belongs to one of our clients. You will be well compensated to hand it over after birth. Sophia's protective instinct flared white-hot.no. Moretti leaned in, his breath reeking of mint and malice. You really think a maid can raise a Bologna heir? Back at his penthouse, Luca couldn't shake the feeling something was profoundly wrong. He poured a drink, then threw it against the wall in frustration. The shattered crystal mirrored his thoughts. Pregnant virgin? Clinic mix-ups? Moretti's nervousness? He pulled out his phone. I need every record on Sophia Rossi. And pull the files from Prestige Fertility, discreetly. You brought that nobody to the hospital? Isabella shrieked, throwing a vase against the wall. People saw you carrying her like some lover. Luca didn't even flinch. She was bleeding. Since when do you care about the help? Isabella advanced on him, her manicured nails digging into his arm. Unless there's something you're not telling me? Their standoff was interrupted by Luca's phone buzzing. The investigator's report had arrived. Luca stared at the damning document. Embryo implant records, Prestige Fertility. Intended recipient, Surrogate 4587. Actual recipient, Sophia Rossi, Employee ID 33216. Genetic material, Luca Bologna. His knees buckled. The fertility clinic's glass doors shattered as Luca stormed inside, his Italian leather shoes crunching over broken shards. Nurses scattered like frightened birds. Where is she? His roar echoed through the sterile halls. Dr. Moretti emerged from his office, face carefully composed. Luca, let's discuss this like. Luca grabbed him by his lab coat, slamming him against the wall. Medical charts rained down around them. You implanted my child into an innocent woman and lied to me. Spittle flew from his lips. You let me think the surrogate miscarried when my baby was alive inside her. Moretti's mask of calm cracked. It was an accident. The nurse mixed up the files. And you covered it up. Luca's grip tightened. Where is Sophia now? The hospital discharge papers burned in Sophia's hands as she hurried down back alleys, her oversized hoodie hiding her swelling stomach. The doctor's warnings rang in her ears. Miss Rossi, you're at high risk for premature labor after that bleeding episode. You need bed rest. But how could she rest when they wanted to steal her baby? Her baby. Even if it wasn't biologically hers, she'd carried this life for months. Felt every flutter, every hiccup. She would die before handing this child over. Her grandmother's cottage outside Milan was the only safe place left. Isabella smirked as the private investigator slid a folder across her desk. Sophia Rossi. 26, no father listed on her birth certificate. Currently caring for a terminal grandmother, the investigator tapped a photo of the crumbling cottage. Weak point identified. Isabella's blood-red nails traced the grandmother's face. Perfect. Alone in his study, Luca stared at the ultrasound image, his child alive and growing inside a woman he barely knew. A woman his fiancée was now hunting. His phone buzzed. A text from Isabella. Meeting the surrogate tomorrow to discuss trying again. So excited for our future. Luca's stomach turned. She knew, she had to know. And she was playing along, buying time to eliminate Sophia. The realization hit like a bullet, I'm engaged to a monster. The cottage's tiny chapel was drafty, the Virgin Mary's painted eyes seeming to follow Sophia as she knelt. I'll give the baby to Luca. She whispered to the flickering candle. But not to them. Never to them. Her grandmother's cough echoed from the next room. The cancer was winning. Soon, Sophia would be truly alone. Except for the life inside her. Luca cornered Nurse Rita in the clinic parking garage, block kin. Her car door. Tell me everything, or I ruin you. Tears streamed down her face. Dr. Moretti made me falsify records. When the surrogate miscarried, he said to tell you all samples were lost, she gulped. But the baby, it survived. In Sophia. Luca's voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Where is she now? Sophia woke to the smell of smoke. Nana? She scrambled up, only to collapse as a contraction ripped through her. Too early. Too soon. Flames licked under the bedroom door. Outside, tires screeched away. She crawled toward her grandmother's room, screaming as another contraction hit. Nana! Luca's Ferrari skidded to a stop just as the cottage roof collapsed in a shower of sparks. Through the inferno, he saw her Sophia on her knees in the driveway, screaming as fluid soaked her dress. Their eyes met across the hellscape. Luca! Help me, Luca sprinted through the smoke, the heat blistering his skin. Sophia writhed on the ground just beyond the collapsing cottage, her face contorted in pain. It's too early. She sobbed, clutching her stomach as another contraction hit. Flames reflected in Luca's terrified eyes. He ripped off his suit jacket, bundling it beneath her head. Sophia, look at me. Breathe. A beam crashed behind them, the cottage was gone. So was Nana. Sophia screamed, but not from the fire. The baby's coming. Luca's hand shook as he helped Sophia onto her side. He'd never delivered a baby, never even held one. Push. He ordered, voice cracking. Sophia's nails dug into his forearm as she bore down. The world narrowed to her screams, the acrid smoke, and the tiny head crowning between her legs. One more. Now. With a final primal cry, the baby slid into Luca's waiting hands, a perfect, wriggling boy. Silence. Then. A piercing wail. Luca choked back a sob. He's here. He's alive. Sophia's grandmother lay dying nearby, her breath shallow. With her last strength, she grabbed Luca's wrist. Sophia. Is not what she seems, she rasped. Her mother was your father's. A final exhale. The old woman's hand went limp. Luca reeled. Was she saying? No time to process. Tires screeched on the road, Isabella's black SUV skidded into view. Isabella emerged like a nightmare in Prada, her perfect lips curling at the scene. Luca covered in blood and soot. Sophia collapsed in exhaustion. The newborn wailing between them. How domestic, she sneered. Then to her bodyguard, take the baby. Luca stood, shielding Sophia and the child with his body. Touch him and I'll destroy you. Isabella laughed. With what? Your board voted while you were playing midwife. I control Bologna Industries now. Weak from blood loss, Sophia clutched the baby to her chest. His name is Matteo, she whispered. Then, with heartbreaking resolve, she held him out to Luca. Take him. Run. Luca's eyes burned. Not without you. Isabella's phone rang. She answered, paling as. The investigator's panicked voice came through. The press got footage of the fire. It's trending everywhere. #Bologna SecretBaby is viral. For the first time, Isabella looked afraid. Luca seized the moment. You lose, Isabella. The world will know what you did. News vans swarmed the hospital where Sophia and Matteo were taken. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Bologna, is it true this child is yours? Miss Rossi, were you coerced into surrogacy? Luca ignored them all, watching through the nursery window as Sophia sang their son to sleep with his mother's lullaby. Luca stood before a sea of flashing cameras, his son's birth certificate in hand. The headlines had already exploded. Billionaire SecretBaby, surrogacy scandal rocks elite. Maid gives birth to Bologna heir in dramatic fire rescue. Let me be clear, Luca declared, voice steady. Matteo Bologna is my son. But what Isabella Moretti and her family did, lying, manipulating records, even burning down a home with an elderly woman inside, is criminal. The crowd gasped as he played the clinic's falsified records on screen. And as of today, he continued, I am pressing charges. In the front row, Sophia, still pale from childbirth, held baby Matteo close, her quiet strength speaking louder than any words. Isabella's arrest was televised. The once untouchable model screamed as police dragged her away in cuffs, her designer dress ripping at the seams. You'll regret this, Luca. She shrieked. But Luca was already walking away. She no longer existed to him. Sophia sat stiffly in the lawyer's office as the results were read. Paternity confirmed, Luca Bologna is the biological father. She exhaled, at least they weren't related. That nightmare was over. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. But there's more. Sophia, your birth records were falsified. Your mother wasn't who you thought. A photograph slid across the table, a young maid in the Bologna estate, holding a baby, Sophia. Luca's breath caught. That's my father's house. The lawyer nodded. Sophia's mother worked there. She died in childbirth, just like Luca's mother. The grandmother raised her in secret. Sophia's hands trembled. So I'm not blood-related, the lawyer confirmed. But your mother loved Luca's father. This baby was always meant to be yours. Fate had come full circle. Dr. Moretti burst into the room, wild-eyed. You think you've won? I'll drag you both through hell. Luca didn't flinch. Try it. The press already has your confession. He played the audio. Make sure that Maid miscarries. Moretti's voice hissed from the recording. The doctor paled, his own nurse had betrayed him. Security dragged him out, his legacy in ruins. The Bologna estate was alive with laughter for the first time in decades. Sophia sat in the garden, baby Matteo gurgling in her arms as Luca knelt before her. I don't want a nanny raising him, he said softly. I want you not as a maid. Not as a surrogate. As my wife. Tears spilled down her cheeks as she nodded. Nearby, Nana's grave stood under a blooming magnolia tree, finally at peace, knowing her granddaughter was home. Matteo sprinted across the lawn, giggling as Luca chased him. Papa, catch me. Sophia watched from the terrace, her rounded belly proof of the second child growing inside her, this one made the old-fashioned way. The headlines had long since moved on, but the lesson remained. Some mistakes lead to miracles.